afternoon, good evening, wherever you may happen to be, and welcome to Scribbler, a portal to fiction. I'm your host, Ben Wustenberg, and today I will be reading to you, as I do every week, from my story, my novella, whatever you want to call it, Cinderella and Her Sisters. This is the fourth reading, and I'm hoping you're going to like it. So I'm kind of excited because yesterday we did our first video together, the wife and I, of her cooking the lobster dinner that we were having. And trigger warnings, she kills them. As if you didn't know that. But we don't boil them. It's Chinese style. You'll see how it is. It's amazing. Because I'm going to make a video of it. I managed to tape it all. And I've got her talking. And she's the new hostess. And we're trying to think of a name. And I think I may have come up with one, but I don't want to give it away now. I want her to do it. And we're going to see where we can take this. It's fun and it's exciting because it's a new year and it's a new beginning, and I want her to get involved and as excited as I am with the idea of where it can go. Anyways, so I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to edit the story, and I'm going to add it to the end of this with the new beginning and all of that stuff like that. And I'm going to put it out, part of it, for free, so that way you can see what it looks like. And if you want to upgrade your subscription at pennies a day, 8 cents a day, if you want to upgrade and then follow us and see where we go with this, we're more than happy to have you. More than happy. Anyways, so before I get carried away, let me go on with this, okay? We're going to read right now. Here we go. Anna feels the cold all at once as the darkness swallows her whole. She climbs into the seat of the sled, pulling her coat tight around her tighter and slipping it under her thighs so she can sit on it. The brazier Agath, stoked for the journey, keeps her feet warm, but everything from the knees up feels the cold and bites into her. The horsehair blanket on her lap keeps the snow off, but offers little in the way of warmth. There's a biting wind, and she wraps her scarf around her neck so that it covers her nose and mouth. Her breath smokes in front of her, and she could feel it freeze against her face. Her eyes water with the cold, and she squeezes them shut, wiping the tears with her gloved hands. She knows the sled is too large and awkward for her to steer properly, and she's afraid that if she picks up speed, she'll lose control on the soft snow. Agath has told her the horse is reliable, though, and won't spook even if one of the automobiles in front of her should backfire. All Anna has to do is hold the reins tight, she added, and then urge the horse on and guide her along the track. Anna tells herself to stay the course and follow the fresh tire tracks ahead of her. This is no time to get lost in the woods, she reminds herself. The darkness makes her feel as though she's going into the mouth of a beast, and she wonders what sort of a beast that would make it. A whale? A behemoth? Isn't that the same thing, she asks herself? A behemoth? What sort of a word is that for something no one's ever seen, or even knows what it is for that matter? There's something about the snow in the darkness that frightens her. She doesn't know what it is. Perhaps it's a shadow out of her childhood. Her eyes search the falling snow as she peers into the inky blackness of the woods. She feels herself hypnotized by the glowing flakes drifting about her. The woods are nothing more than a stained smear against the snow, a swarthy blur on the landscape that looks as much out of focus as she herself is out of touch. Her biggest fear about the woods is that one day wild dogs or else a pack of wolves will attack her, and no one will know until they find her bleached skeleton years later. She knows the biggest fear should be the deserters the doctors are always warning her about, but somehow she doesn't feel they'll harm her. She doesn't know why she feels as certain as she does about it, but believes it has something to do with the sacrifices she's made over the years. God will protect her, she tells herself as she unconsciously crosses herself. It's a naivety born of her sheltered innocence. She does not understand the world of men. She follows the lights of the 6 ambulances ahead of her, and an hour later notices the lights of other automobiles in the distance at a crossroads. She tries to count them but can't. There are too many. They're like distant intruders, an invading army, she thinks, and she wonders if they even see her or where they came from. The single lantern she carries on the sled is useless, but Agath had insisted she take it. The snow had been falling heavily since leaving the hospital, the flakes looking as large as slices of bread sometimes, and the wet snow feels like a weight on her thin shoulders. The automobiles skid across the snow as the drivers fight the tortuous turn at the crossroads, the only trail a thin ribbon of muddy ice that disappears into the snow ahead of them. One automobile skids out of controls and lodges itself into a snowbank. 2 other automobiles stop, and several people jump out to help pull it out of the snow. She hears the drivers cursing at each other, sees their breath smoking in the cold air around them, and notices how the snow finally lets up. She looks up as the kaleidoscope of flakes fade around her and sees the clouds split open above her. She even sees a star as a light veil lifts away from the face of the moon briefly. An eerie light fills the valley and a strange silence surrounds her. She can see the rail line to the left, a dark line cleft into the whiteness. And as they crest the final hill, she turns to look at the wreckage below. The train is a twisted mass of blackness that glistens in the moonlight. It's difficult for her to make out any recognizable shape the way it's laying in the snow. Some of the cars are buried in the snowbanks. The lights of the automobiles shine in the valley, and broken shards of window glass sparkle like ice crystals in the snow. Steam meanders through the wreckage, its weak tendrils struggling against the cold, and she can see where the steam has lost its battle to escape, where it has faltered and frozen like a ghost against the cold metal. The wind picks up and whistles through the trees, where it sifts through the branches that cough up against each other. Snowdrifts blow out across the landscape like a fine gauze. The clouds are quick to give way, as if they're torn from the night, and the moon lights the valley as the automobiles crest the hills. Anna urges the horse down into the valley, holding the reins tight and feeling her muscles tense through her arms, in her shoulders, and through her back. She can feel the sled slide sideways as automobiles skid past her, kicking up clumps of frozen snow and ice. She gasps for a breath, feeling panic well up in her chest until the sled straightens itself out and she feels it settle down. When she pulls alongside the train, she rests her head back and looks up at the few stars and windswept clouds above. One of the doctors calls out to her and tells her to help with the survivors. There are too many dead laying about for her to count. Many of the bodies have frozen in the long wait. The doctors and nurses check each one. The drivers pull the bodies out of the snow and ice, putting them on sleds and piling the dead off to the side. Anna watches as a man tries to free a body frozen to a twisted axle. He calls her and asks her to help. She hears a sickening snap as the ice breaks around the body, and she wonders if it is the breaking ice that she hears or bones. The few survivors who have managed to find their way out of the broken cars are huddled together for warmth. Anna can hear calls for help, moans of pain and crying still coming from inside the twisted wreckage. She makes her way to the rail cars, stepping over the tangled debris. The smell of death hangs heavy in the car. It is dark, and what light there is casts an eerie shadow over everything. She follows the doctor into a rail car and waits as he examines the wounded. Some of the bodies are buried under the heavy seats and fallen walls, and they have to pull themselves free of the twisted metal and broken timbers. "I think this man's been stabbed," the doctor says slowly, looking at a man laying dead at his feet. "What do you mean, stabbed?" she asks, bending over to look at the body. "The wounds aren't consistent with what's happened here," he says, looking around. There isn't anything here that looks like it might have punctured him. It looks like someone's killed him. Why? I mean, who'd do something like that? She looks at the doctor closely. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, and I could be wrong, but look at the bloody footprints. The doctor rips the dead man's coat open and looks at his bloodied shirt. He feels about the body and looks up at her. He's been stabbed. Look, here's the wound. He looks at the dead man's hands, searches his pockets, and sits back slowly, shaking his head. Looks like he was robbed. There's no money in his pockets, no papers. The man has no watch, no jewelry, nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Are you trying to say that someone came in here and robbed them? I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe some of the survivors know what happened. It's not for me to figure out. Anna follows the bloody footsteps to the edge of the car and looks out. She can see where the footprints lead from car to car. Whoever it was went from rail car to rail car. 7 bodies have been stabbed. All of the victims are dead except for the last one. Anna climbs into the last car and looks at the man. He's lost an arm, but somehow has managed to tie his belt around the severed stump. His breathing is labored and raspy. The doctor climbs into the car a moment later, sees the severed arm, and nods as he makes his way over to the man. Whoever it was, he even went as far as to cut the man's fingers off his severed arm. Obviously, there was a ring the bastard must have wanted. I don't know, he says slowly. I don't know how this man isn't dead. I doubt if he'll make the trip back to the hospital, though, he adds with a slow shake of his head as he looks up at Anna briefly. Anna sits back against an overturned seat, her hand to her mouth. She looks at the man, shaking her head as tears come to her eyes. The doctor pauses and looks at her before he does anything else. What's the matter? What's wrong with you? She shakes her head slowly, looking down at the man with the bloody stump. I think I know this man. Do you want me to save him? She looks at the doctor like he slapped her, suddenly speechless at what he said. She looks down at the man again as she feels her body shake and nods her head slowly before she says anything. You're a doctor. I'm also a practical man. There you go. I did it. Not too many goof ups. I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't help it. It just happens. And, this is a one-take affair. It's not like I was doing it with the iPad and then, I can edit and all that stuff. It's like, no. This is just one shot and done. In and out, like bad sex. Anyways, that's it. So, on to my next project. Well, actually, I have to finish this one off first. I have to do my editing and, like my Pink Floyding of it all and do all of that stuff. But I prepared that in advance. I thought about it this time. Anyways, that's all I'm going to do. It's coming up to 14 minutes almost. I don't want to drag this out too long, but if I make it 15, that's okay too. I can make this 15 and I can add another 10 to the next one and or to the end of this. And I can bring in my half an hour almost. That's what we're looking for. Everybody else seems to do an hour and shit like that. I don't know how they do that, but whatever. Anyways, I'm going to say arrivederci and ciao for now, and I will see you next week. The same bat time and the same bat channel. And have a good New Year's week. Alrighty? I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.